Okay, got it. Awesome. Okay, hey, so I have a new fan fiction today. It's a Danny Phantom fan fiction, and it's by HosekiDragon, and it's called The Lair of Danny Phantom. So before I start, I just want to say there is some noise going on in the background and yonder, and it's happening outside the apartment, and I hope that's not a distraction, and it's why I got these. So hopefully you guys can hear me better than like regular earbud microphone stuff. Okay, so here we go. The Lair of Danny Phantom. Danny stuck his head out of the door to his room, looking first to the left and then to the right. Seeing that the coast was clear, he slipped out the door, closing it softly behind him, and tiptoed down the hall. Voices came from the living room stairs, and by the sounds of it, the TV was on too. Clutching his violet backpack close to his chest, he bounced lightly down the steps, slid unnoticed into the kitchen, and then down into the lab. Once there, he slung his bag over his shoulders, opened the Phantom portal, and dove into its swirling green depths, transforming into his ghost form mid-jump. The ghost zone didn't bother Danny anymore. Actually, when he was in ghost form, he felt right at home. As he flew along, the 15-year-old boy gazed around at the numerous deviant doors that hung suspended in midair, and wondered how many of his enemies were plotting ridiculous plans of revenge behind them. Finally, he found what he was looking for, one of the smaller, shattered land formations that dotted the almost infinite expanse of the ghost zone. He dropped onto its grassy surface. True, the grass was blue, and the leaves on the palm trees were an eerie dark violet, but it was rather like a strange version of paradise. Besides, the crystal clear pool of the water that I think the noise got louder. The crystal clear pool of the water that sparkled with ectoplasm was absolutely beautiful. After stopping to admire the glowing pool, the boy wandered up to the door. It was rectangular and painted a brilliant sky blue that would have matched his human eyes. And nailed rather clumsily to the front of the door was a white sign covered in stuck-on gold stars with the words Phantom's Lair painted on it in clumsily black lettering. Danny chuckled to himself. I could never paint. He pushed the door open, closing it behind him as he went inside. Alright, school's out. Who's up for a round of butt-kicking at the arcade by yours truly, Tucker Foley? Thanks for the dramatic speech, Tuck, but I'm gonna have to pass. Sam and Tucker looked around at their best friend in wonder. Danny never passed up the opportunity to beat Tucker at the arcade, especially because he and Sam would always get a laugh watching Tucker trying to play Dance Dance Revolution. Geez, Danny, come on. What are you doing, studying? Sam put her hands on her hips, scowling at her half-ghost friend. I mean, you've hardly hung out with us at all lately. What are you up to? Danny blushed a brilliant crimson and hung his head, muttering so that they could barely hear. It's not done yet. What's not done? Tucker demanded. I can't tell you yet. It's a surprise. Danny tried to grin, but it was so fake it was like a grimace. Sam looked like she was going to slap him. Look, I'll show you guys tomorrow, I promise. I just have to finish it tonight. I'll see you later, he said as he took off running down the sidewalk. Clueless, Tucker murmured in a sing-song voice, and Sam rolled her eyes. The doorbell rang, and Danny, who had been oddly fidgety all night, jumped and ran out of the living room, and flung the door open. Jazz, Jack, and Maddie could hear his voice along with those of Sam and Tucker. There were some footsteps, and then Danny stuck his head back into the living room. We'll be down the lab, bye, and he vanished. Jazz looked at her parents, who shrugged and went back to watching their show. Meanwhile, down the lab, Danny had transformed into Danny Phantom and was currently in the process of persuading an irritable Tucker to go down into the ghost zone. Look, no one's going to attack us, alright? I swear. Now get out of the Spectre speeder. No way, man. I want some protection in here. Tucker, how thick is that skull of yours? Sam put in. Humans are ghosts in the ghost zone, remember? The ghosts can't touch us, and besides... She turned her gaze onto Danny, who met her eyes. Who's going to attack the infamous Danny Phantom? Danny blushed a furious bright red and glanced away. Grumbling, Tucker jumped out of the Spectre speeder and sidled up to stand beside Danny, who looped one arm around the techno-geek's waist and the other around the waist of Sam and floated into the ghost zone. Danny, where are we going? We've never been to this part of the ghost zone before, Sam muttered, looking around. It wasn't that bad, actually. Most of it was floating islands. You'll see, Danny replied in a distracted sort of way. You'll see. His face brightened. There it is! He dropped with alarming speed onto a small islet with purple leaf palm trees, blue grass, and a dazzling pool of sparkling ectoplasmic water. Wow, this is cool, Sam said, gazing around with Tucker. Yeah, I know, it's great, isn't it? But come here. He grabbed her hand and motioned for Tucker to follow. This is what I really want to show you. He led them past the pool, through a knot of palm trees, and stopped in front of a blue door, grinning. Your lair, huh? Tucker reached out for the handle. Tucker, no! Sam shouted as the two boys turned around to look at her. She turned a delicate shade of pink. I mean, it's your ghost half's lair. Just barging in is sort of a private thing. Nah. Danny turned the knob and pushed the door open. I'm inviting you. It's fine. And he let them inside, closing the door behind them. Whoa, Tucker whispered. Whoa was an understatement in Sam's personal opinion. If Danny Phantom's lair was supposed to be a normal, square room, then she could see no visible walls. Instead, stretched before her was a huge black expanse dotted with glowing pinpoints of light and swirling vortexes of color. It took her bewildered mind a moment or two to understand exactly where they were. Danny, this is space. Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? Danny reached out a white-gloved hand, which was glowing emerald slightly against the black, and poked a nearby star, which flared a brilliant silver before dying back down. I was zipping around the ghost zone about a week ago and came across this cool little island. That's when I found the door. It had my name on it, so I opened it and found this. Apparently the ghost zone makes the layers for its inhabitants. This is incredible, dude! This is incredible, dude. Tucker stuck his hand into a galaxy and spun it around so that the massive colors twisted around like fog before settling back into their natural shape. This is so cool. There's no words for it. It's just that awesome. Sam rolled her eyes and Danny smiled, shaking his head. So this is your whole lair? This is it, really? The Goth asked. I mean, Danny Phantom's lair is simply this? Space? She waved a hand around it, raising an eyebrow at the half-ghost. Not really, no. Danny grinned and reached out again, cupping his fingers around one of the stars in the constellation of the winged horse Pegasus and pulled it towards him. I keep a stash of random personal items in here, too. I am a ghost. Fear me. A mechanical monotone voice repeated from the drawer that had popped out of the air when Danny had tugged on the star. Danny quickly shut it, pushing the star away. I'm also sort of hiding some of my parents' stuff in here too. Sam and Tucker laughed and Danny turned bright red again. Okay, tour's over. Out you go, both of you. Out. He started pushing his two best friends out the door, standing in the middle of space. Out. I say out. This only made them laugh harder, and finally, laughter being as contagious as it is, Danny collapsed into the blue grass as well, leaning back against its closed door and laughing himself silly. It took a moment, but the trio eventually settled down, lay sprawled in the grass, gasping to get their breath back. Hey, who's up for a swim? Tucker was already pulling his shirt over his head by the edge of the crystal pool. Tucker, are you nuts? It's going to be freezing cold in there. Sam looked slightly agitated, but also very intrigued. Cowabunga! Danny was already way ahead of both of them, his ghost form abandoned and his shirt, pants, shoes, and socks left on the grass. He jumped into the water with a tremendous splash. He surfaced with a sharp gasp, shaking his head sharply so droplets of water flung into the air. Then he floated there, grinning, his black hair flopping into his face. It's really not that cold. Tucker kicked off his shoes and socks, trying to take his pants off at the same time, and did a normal cannonball right beside Danny, making the other boy splutter as he got a face full of water. You two are gonna regret having wet boxers, Sam stated calmly, sitting with her knees tucked under her near the edge of the pool. Oh yeah? Well, not as much as you're gonna regret not coming in here. Danny heaved upward with his hands, sending a wave of crystal liquid washing over Sam. The girl screamed in shock and fury and stumbled backwards, wiping her face off and cursing Danny, who was now laughing in the shallows of Tucker. Oh, that was a bad idea, Sam scowled playfully, pulling off her boots and socks, rolled up her jeans, and lunged forward into the water, kicking up spray and attempting to shove Tucker under the water. Danny howled with glee and went to join the fray. Ah, the sweet life. Okay, that was that. Thanks! Ah! This fell. Okay.